All right, welcome back to That 70s Card Show. My name is John Keating, and I thank you for joining me as I take a look back at the cards and the culture of the very colorful 1970s. We'll revisit a more simple time in our hobby by taking a deep dive into the sets and the stats with a generous amount of dad facts sprinkled in. That 70s Card Show is currently sponsored by nobody. If you have a comment or suggestion, I urge you to drop me a line at that70scardshow@gmail.com. 70s card on Twitter, or the comments of or thumbs down on YouTube, That 70s Card Show. This is episode 78, and I'm dangerously close to being towards the end of my mini series run of talking to completely awesome collectors that I appreciate and admire and look up to. So episode 78, we'll get to what we're going to talk about, but right now we're going to get to who we're going to talk about it with. Here is Ed from Safe at Home Sports Cards. Ed, how are you doing?
I'm well, John. Thank you for having me on.
Good. You are, if I'm not mistaken, in the smallest state in the United States. Is that correct?
Yes, I am. Right on the coast of Rhode Island.
And you probably do you have the biggest collection in the smallest state, or is that up for
I'm not
grabs?
sure about that, but I have my favorite collection.
Sweet. So obviously, judging by Ed's accent, he does not root for the Sox. He roots for the Sox, the SAWXs out of Boston. I too am a Boston Red Sox fan, more so a Yaz fan and a Ted Williams and all that stuff from the 70s. But you're Boston Red Sox through and through. How did all of this start, Ed? How did you become the man in Rhode Island?
I don't know about Rhode Island, but my passion for baseball started as far back as I can remember. My dad played ball, and I was born with a baseball in my hand.
Where did your dad play?
He played locally.
Okay, semi-pro or whatever they call that.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay,
but he was always playing. I was always going to the field with him when I was a little kid.
Right.
Always play in the backyard. You come home from work, throw balls a mile high in the sky that I will lose sight of. And but I was always dragging him out there to play catch, and he was always willing. And he fed that passion for me from the time I can remember.
What was your first game that you went to? Do you remember that?
Yes. First game I went to was 1972. They were playing the Oakland A's, the colorful Oakland A's with the green jerseys.
World champion A's, right?
And we had tickets behind the Red Sox dugout for a doubleheader.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was there. It was my father and I and my cousin and my uncle. And I remember the second game, Doug Griffin came out and his shirt was stained. And we're like, well, his wife probably didn't want to do his laundry after the first game. 7 years old. We don't know.
Right. So going into that game, did you were you just there for the experience, or were you there to see any of the particular players? Did you know the names?
Oh, yeah.
Did you know the numbers?
Yeah, okay. I knew back in that season was you had Yaz, you had Pudge. Dewey hadn't come up yet at that point. That was like July of 72.
No Reggie Smith on that team still?
Reggie Smith was there.
Mike Andrews, maybe?
No, Andrews was already gone.
He's gone, okay.
We had Louis Aparicio. Bob Montgomery caught the second game of the doubleheader.
Americo was on that team, right?
Yep. Rico was at third base. Yep. We had Phil Gagliano in left field.
Who was at first then?
First base was Yaz.
Yaz had moved from left field to first.
72, yeah.
Now, who was playing left field then?
Left field was Phil Gagliano. Well, the game I went to was Phil Gagliano.
Okay.
They had Anthony Costco.
Yeah, I was far away down here in Pennsylvania, and I thought that Yaz was moved because of Jim Rice, but that wasn't the case. He made that shift a little sooner.
Well, he had started playing first base sooner than that.
Okay, gotcha. Did the Red Sox win any of the games that day?
No, they lost both.
They lost. Who was the manager right then?
The manager at that time was Eddie Casco.
Eddie Casco. Okay. Wow, man, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And so you were done, man. You were a Red Sox fan for life at that point, right?
Yeah.
What about the cards? Where did the cards come from?
The cards came in the following season, 1973. there was a little variety store outside of my school, and a couple of friends of mine went in there to play pinball, and there were baseball cards there. And one of the older kids opened up a pack of cards and like, "What's those?" And that was the end. So
Right.
I reached in my pocket, grabbed a dime, bought a pack, and in the first pack that I ever opened,
Look at that, man.
yes,
Hold
this
on a
isn't the
second.
card, but
Bring that up again. Look at that.
yeah, that
Yeah,
was
he knew at that point. Yaz knew how great he was,
sure.
and the rest of us were just catching on. As far as us young kids that didn't see 67, right?
Yeah,
We, yeah. So, uh, favorite player? Who was your favorite player
my
growing up, and
favorite
does that
player,
still stay the same?
Jim Rice.
Jim Rice, huh?
Jim Rice was always my favorite Red Sox player. I think because I got to see him in Pawtucket when he was just coming up,
Okay.
and I was able to watch him through his whole career. Yaz is a close 1B, Pudge 1C, Dewey 1, so on. And Freddie Lynn, those five.
Uh,
The group. But Jim Rice is always in my heart. Has been a little bit above that, and I think it was because I was exposed to him right at the beginning of his career, and he played his whole career here.
right. True.
As the rest of the guys outside of Yaz, they all went separate ways, not by their own choosing, but
Right. Red Sox seem to have all those strong silent type guys, right? Like you didn't hear anything from Rice or Evans or Yaz or
yeah,
even Ted Williams back in the day, just let them do their stuff. I can't help staring. I mean, I see behind you, I see the Dewey jersey,
yep,
which I still have a problem with his name on the back. I don't think,
yeah,
but
yeah. That's
what are you going to do, right?
sacrilege, I guess. But he
Yeah,
he did play with that uniform, just not with the name on the back.
just not the name. Yeah, yeah. Now, more importantly, I see a beautiful display case with the entire
Oh yeah,
Yaz run,
that's the
Topps
Yaz
Yaz run
top
on there.
Yaz run, right? Yep, 60 to 83.
So that 73, we're going to talk today about the 73 set in more detail. Once we get through some of your um, background here. Now that
Sure.
73, did you get a handful of cards that summer? Did you get the whole set? What was your
Um,
game plan? I mean, you
well,
were
I
just a
just
kid, right?
I was just buying them and flipping them. I mean, not flipping them for money, flipping them against the wall.
Yep, yep, yep.
And trading them and trying to complete the set. I don't think I ever really did. I probably still have out of my original cards, probably about 300 of them.
That's pretty
Um,
cool.
I've been adding to it. I'm about 150 away from completing it. I'm balancing that with my pursuit of the 65 set.
Oh,
But
yeah, I know you and I've been in some group
yeah,
breaks with the
yeah.
65 set.
Matter of fact, I'm still waiting for my cards from that last one.
I got all my cards, but what were you needed the Rico, right? Or no, you needed the Canigliaro. Is that right? The Tony C in that
Yeah,
65 or yeah.
yeah. I needed the Tony C, which was nice.
You're not just gonna go out and buy that, huh?
Well, I would have.
Yeah,
I
I
was
got
actually
you.
I got into the break to see if I could get the mantle,
Oh, I got you. I got you.
but that didn't
Yeah,
work.
that didn't work. So you're not done the 73 set yet, though, you're telling me.
No, no,
Yeah.
73. I got a lot. I think the only big boy I need is Schmitty.
Schmidt, yeah.
I
Yeah,
have most of the other Hall of Famers. I have a Willie Mays that's somewhere here. That's creased from when I was a kid. I can't find it, but
perfectly creased, I like to say.
yeah,
If it was creased
it
with
was okay. It had
attitude.
character.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, man.
I've had it
Exactly.
for 50 years, so
Don't get me started on the modern collecting. You're still putting sets together,
I
right?
am. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think did you complete a lot of the sets in the 70s after that as you got older and as you've gone back, or you still got a bunch
Yeah,
of
well,
holes?
what I've been doing is I've been backfilling. As a kid, I kept most of my stuff from the 70s.
Hmm.
And I'm just been kind of filling them in because I was never really after completing the set once I had all the Red Sox and all
Sure.
my other favorite players.
Right.
But now I'm just kind of, chipping at it here and there.
Right.
But I go down a lot of rabbit holes.
Right.
Like I have to like yesterday I went into a show where I ran into Mark. We spent some time together,
Uh-huh.
and I was there strictly for 73. And I saw a lot of nice stuff, and I'm like, I'm not doing it today.
He's a bad influence because
Yeah,
he's not a set completist. He's got a lot of sets that
yeah,
he's complete that he did from way back, but he's in a different game now. He's looking for the oddball stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah, he's
and
bad influence, man.
you walk around with Mark, it's like you see things through his eyes, and it's
Yeah,
like,
it's amazing, huh?
yeah, he has such an amazing collection. It's unbelievable.
So you're still going to shows, which is great.
Yes.
Like I said, you and I were members of a break together, separately but together, same
Yep.
break.
Yep.
What do you think? Where do you get most of your cards? I mean, it sounds to me like you're out there everywhere. You're in the LCSs, the shows, eBay.
Yeah.
You're just
I would,
scraping every avenue, right?
yeah, I will, I'll scan eBay, and if I see something that I know is a really good buy, I'll grab it.
Gotcha.
If it's, I'll shop around. I'll go if there's a show coming up. There's a couple of shops that I'll go and check out. I try not to do snap purchases unless it's, a real good buy, because
Yeah.
I mean, eBay's okay, but you can't really see the card. So depending on the type of card I'm looking for, like if it's a set filler, I kind of want to maintain a certain grade
Yeah,
level
and you
of
can
the
get those
card.
at shows for the most part,
Yeah,
right? Because I when I buy on eBay, it's usually stuff that I'm not going to find at a show,
right.
and it's tough to a lot of things are tough to get at a show, believe it or not. Especially you and I, people like you and I who will collect everything. So you do have to find different avenues. Shows are great and all, but
Yeah.
I buy a lot of lots, and I know you sell. I know you sell on eBay. What are you selling on eBay, and where are you getting that stuff that you're selling on eBay?
eBay, I sell modern because I don't really collect modern. The only
Okay.
thing I'll collect modern is my childhood heroes if they have cards in a modern set,
Hmm.
whether it's Pudge, Yaz, Jackie Robinson, Duke Snyder. I collect a lot of Brooklyn Dodgers also.
Right.
But
So
that's
much
all,
fun stuff out there, like the new cards with the older players.
yeah,
Just so much fun stuff out there.
yeah, and I'll hunt that down. But basically, I will buy collections, bulk purchases, maybe at a flea market or something like
Hmm.
that, and I will get a case of flagship
Okay.
when it's released, and I will portion that out. And I have a few people that I put stuff aside that they buy,
Right.
and the rest goes on eBay.
It's crazy because you're of my generation and you're of my mind collecting, but it's neat to see that you are involved in the modern game to that extent. Like I buy modern stuff, but not a case worth, and you're doing it, I assume, to fund
Yes.
other avenues of the hobby, right? So
Yeah, that makes it easier on my wallet.
right.
Yeah.
So how many years have you been doing that? And do you have a ton of cards just laying around from year after year after year, or are you able to move them pretty quickly?
Well, I don't have as much as Bo.
No, he's a businessman. That's why you and I are just feeding our habits, right?
I have probably a 3-tier rack
Okay,
of cards that I processed in from purchases. Right now on my eBay store, I have about 4,400 cards up. And
gotcha.
I've been just kind of organically growing that. Not
Right.
trying to get too big too fast. I do what I can.
Yeah, no pressure, right? I mean, then
Yeah.
then it, then it
So,
becomes a chore.
right.
You know,
Well,
I,
my
yeah,
goal with the eBay store is I want to retire in 5 years.
okay, good
And
for
this,
you.
I would like to build that business to the point where that would be a nice little side hustle,
Uh huh.
fill a couple of gaps. So that's my end game on that. So there's no real hurry to grow it and make it super profitable at this time.
Are you staying put? Should you retire in 5 years? Or are you on the move somewhere?
No, probably gonna end up in North Carolina. That's where my youngest daughter is settled in.
All right, because me, who doesn't think about retirement, would be scared out of my pants the thought of moving everything in my basement somewhere else. Which is still, if it's warmer and nicer and cheaper, that's fine. But you have any trepidation about moving your whole operation south?
Not yet.
No, not yet. That would cause some
I think once
anxiety,
the
Ed.
for sale sign goes on the house,
Yeah.
that might pick up.
See, that's another thing too, Ed, is I'm paranoid about if I do go to sell my house, which for many years I said I wanted to sell every day because the prices were
Yeah,
great in my house. But I'd be, again, crapping my pants knowing that somebody would be down in my basement with my cards.
yeah,
So that's a
oh,
whole other thing. I mean, you can clean out some of the big guns, right? But still,
right.
there's stuff there that I don't want people to see, which is odd because I show it on the internet all the time, but I don't want people when we have house cleaners come in, they don't go in the basement.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so that's that. You're gonna eventually, what would be great about that? You can, if you did that full time, and you didn't have to do it full time, but it took up a lot of your day in retirement. That's a pretty healthy retirement, I think, because you're still doing what you love. You're
Sure.
still kind of bringing some money in, and keeping busy and all that stuff. So I know
Yeah.
we only have so much time and bandwidth to deal with cards right now with life. A lot of stuff gets in the way. So, but that's good to know that you have a plan,
Yeah.
or at least thinking about a plan. Again, I don't have a plan just because my parents didn't make it to retirement, so I'm convinced I won't either. So I don't want to disappoint myself. So I'll surprise myself more than disappoint myself. So.
Damn, I lived that long.
Yeah, exactly, right. So I feel sorry for the rest of the world if I live that long. So.
Uh,
So let's talk a little bit before we do that. What is your, you gave me 3 players there as your favorite players. What's your favorite card that will be going with you in your pocket down to North Carolina instead of in a moving truck?
that will probably be my Jim Rice rookie card. That one I have.
Gotcha.
That one is the one I have. It's in my card room upstairs, but
Okay.
that's the one I pulled out of a pack in 1975.
Interesting that, and I guess we'll talk about that a little bit with Schmidt here. A 4-player card. You don't have any qualms about a 4-player card being your favorite, huh? There's 3 other guys on there. Who else is on there? Not Jerry Manuel. Is he on there?
Oh, I can't even
Don't
think.
know. I get him and Lynn confused sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but that's your favorite. Do you have that graded, or that's just
No, I just
down and dirty?
it's in a one touch.
One touch. There you go. And do you grade your stuff or no?
Only I will grade like the older stuff.
Okay.
So
And do you buy graded? So do you buy raw and grade, or do you buy
yeah,
graded?
I will buy graded of the old stuff, like the ads. I want to put that whole graded run together.
Mhm.
When I buy graded, I'm not so particular about the grade, um, but it tells me it's authentic
Yeah, for sure,
for the,
man.
for
It's a
the most
huge
part,
thing.
anyway.
Yeah, I'm the same way, Ed. Because you and I grew up in an era, obviously in the '80s, where there was a lot of counterfeiting. Just
Yeah.
I know there's always been counterfeited cards, but like I was real paranoid. I always say about the Pete Rose card. I never got one, but I was always paranoid about that. And then they just started printing cards, like right there on show site. It seemed like.
Mhm.
Answer to the question: Dave Augustine, Pepe Manguel, and John Scott.
Pepe Manuel, that was the one I was thinking of. I can
Yeah,
him. I couldn't
yeah.
remember the name.
It's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many Rice cards do you think you have? You keep track of that on TCDB or anything?
I probably should, but
Yeah.
I do have a spreadsheet. I'm up to for his playing days cards. I think there's 120. I'm up to about 100.
Yeah, because
And non-playing days, I've got a ton. I have a ton of autographs. You go on eBay, you search Jim Rice autographs, you get a beautiful /25 for like $10.
are they still pumping out his cards and like archives and stuff like that?
He
Do you
hasn't been
see?
making too many appearances
I don't
lately.
see him. Yeah, I don't see it.
Pudge is the old Red Sox player that's been
Okay.
getting a lot of play now.
Yeah, I like that old, like, 2021 platinum anniversary set, has the old timers in there.
Yeah,
I
I
don't,
have
but I
that
don't.
one. Jim
Yeah,
Rice in that
he's
one.
in that one. Okay, I got a couple of the Yaz's from that. So, all right, so we are going to roll up our sleeves here and talk about your beloved. Tell us what set we're going to talk about. We already know, but
1973 Topps baseball.
as the first pack you ever ripped. Just
There
so
we
we know, there it is. There's our guy Yaz. We love him. Let's talk a little
go.
bit real quick. Oh, we're going to ask you a question about that in a minute here. Let's talk about distribution, right? You know anything about the distribution of this set?
Distribution, it was the last year they distributed it in series. I believe there were 6 series.
And I think, if I'm not wrong, there's word out there that in some areas they released it all at once.
Florida.
Yeah, Florida, was it? Okay.
Florida, as far as I know, Florida was a spot where they just threw it out there.
Okay. So these were 24 packs in a wax box, 10 cards plus 1 stick of that yummy bubble gum, 10 cents a pop,
Yes.
man. What a bargain that is, huh? A penny a
Yeah.
card. And It's amazing that even if you sold, even if you sold a common right now for 50 cents or a dollar, you're making 100x what the thing cost, right? Which is
Yeah, yeah,
crazy,
you're
crazy to think
absolutely
about that.
right.
We had cello packs, 25 cents. You got 27 cards, so even better than less than penny a card.
Yeah.
Rack packs, 54 cards for 39 cents. You said did you get a cello or did you were you just doing wax back then, do you
Oh,
think?
the cellos. My mom used to go every Saturday out shopping with my grandmother.
Uh-huh.
And more often than not during baseball season, she'd come home with a 25-cent cello pack for me.
Big spender, man. Yeah, that and you're thinking in your mind, I can't wait to grow up. I could buy the cello packs. Right now, I'm just
Yeah.
throwing dimes out there. Rack packs were, like I said, 54 cards in a pack, which is great for 39 cents. And they did have vending boxes, which to you and I meant nothing because we never saw vending boxes
No,
when we were
no.
kids. So, yeah. We'll talk a little bit about, let's see here. Get rid of that real quick. Talk about the wrappers. I don't know whether you remember this, but there's 4 wrappers at least. You probably couldn't differentiate them as a kid. They were just cool wrappers, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's just you saw baseball on the pack, you grabbed it, bought it, and opened it.
I can't help to think that the artist got a little, that if that's not Steve Carlton, I don't know who is, right? Left-hander
Yeah,
with a 2 on the back,
yeah.
and something else you find interesting is an umpire arguing with a manager
That
on one of the
reminds me of Dick
wrappers.
Williams.
Dick Williams, yeah, I guess so, with a vest too, right?
Yeah.
Because I guess Dick Williams would have had the vest there early on
Well, he
before they
looks like
switched
his
to polys.
profile,
Yeah,
hairline.
true that, man. I don't know about the colors, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, it's kind of a simple design. It's dominated by a white border. I got the checklist up now. Nice orange checklist. Has the Topps logo on the checklists, and I think that's the only place the Topps logo appears on the front of the cards. I like to talk about 1979. They were on the front of every card, but mustard brown or mustard yellow on the back. I think I've always kind of liked the backs of those cards, Ed.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the color scheme. We'll talk about right here the probably the 72 Red Sox right there in front of they used to
Mhm.
pose in front of the Green Monster, right? That
Yeah.
was the plan there. And in the 70s, the Red Sox would occasionally have a floating head pop up in their team cards. Thankfully, that wasn't the case here. Back of the cards, again, that mustard yellow has team records, all sorts of hitting and pitching team records and pennant winners. Yankees card was crazy with the pennant winners. Red Sox, they didn't do too bad. There's some pennant winners in there, for sure. So, yeah. And the aforementioned Dick Williams is listed on the back there, 1967, as the manager of the Red Sox and their final pennant until 1975, right?
Yes.
So the Red Sox were always kind of in it back then, but not quite over the hump, I think, right? In the early mid 70s, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right, team cards. He sent away for these team cards, which had the facsimile signatures of all the players, which is cool because the cards didn't have the signatures,
No,
but the team cards did. It's kind of a team checklist. You have any of these bad boys?
I did. They didn't make it to adulthood with me. And I don't know why, because maybe because they weren't numbered. I didn't keep
Okay,
them with the set.
right.
But I did accumulate quite a few of them because my friends that would have them didn't want them because
Oh,
they didn't have
really?
a number.
Oh,
They didn't
wow,
have a number. They
interesting.
weren't part of the set. I'll take it. Give it to me.
Yeah, right. I have a couple back there, and of course they're well loved. They have markings on them and stuff like that, which
Those are the
is
best.
they're the best. Exactly. I know in '74, I think they did the same thing. They were, I think, instead of blue, they were green or whatever. So, kind of I never know what Tops had in mind to make people send stuff in to get stuff. It seems like such an effort to couple wrappers, couple quarters, couple this, couple that, and then they'd
Yeah.
send something out to you. Why not just insert them into the packs or whatever? But never quite made any sense to me. Seems like they were complicating things, but whatever. I guess that's why they're kind of rare these days. Those team cards, unmarked and in good shape, are worth a lot right
Oh
now
yeah,
as
for sure.
far as a set. Talk a little bit about the design here. I got some Buddy Bell action on screen, who is at Yankee Stadium, and it was great Indians uniforms back in the day. And then there's the rookie card there with Dewey in the middle, and Alonza, Bunbury, and Charlie Spikes. Again, white borders. I liked from the get go when we would see when I called flipping is when you have a stack of cards and you flip your buddy for
Right.
cards, and if
Yep.
outfield matched up, you got the pile, right?
Right.
So I thought it was the easiest thing in the world when we did our flipping to use the 73 tops because it was easy. It was color coded. There was a picture of what the guy was doing, and there was also the position written in there. So I don't. I will fight anybody who thinks this set is too vanilla looking because I think it's got character and it's kind of like addition by subtraction. There's not a lot of stuff going on, but
No.
it's a fun set. Player name, team name, all that stuff, and the rookie cup is there. And we'll get to your boy Pudge in a bit with his rookie cup. Tell me what you know about the managers in the 1973 set. How confusing is all this to the average collector?
Well, you have a couple of different variations on these cards with the backgrounds of the coaches. Some have ears missing, and
Right.
they'll say they were airbrushed out, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
Then you have, like you can see in the right-hand side with Vern Morgan and Bob Rogers, they had the trees in the background, and the one on
Right.
the left, the trees are missing. So I'm not quite sure. It had to be a printing facility issue, I would think.
Yeah, but it takes some effort to remove trees and ears and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a great mystery to me.
Yeah, if you go to TCDB, it says there's 48 variations, and some of the are, for example, card 12, Dave Garcia's ear is faded, Dave Garcia's ear is visible.
Right.
Solid orange backgrounds with this, like we said. And then there's other coaching cards that say solid orange backgrounds and natural orange backgrounds. Ed, I don't know the difference between solid and natural orange, truth be told.
They don't even look orange to me.
They don't even look orange. And then there's the ear, like we said, the ears and all that stuff. And one of the cool things about these coaches cards is there's a lot of Hall of Famers that were managing and coaching that
Yeah.
year. Yogi with the Mets, I think, Eddie Matthews, all that stuff. So there's a lot of fun stuff. I know Mazeroski is a coach on the Pirates. Warren Spahn is a coach on the Indians, and just a lot of fun times in these coaching cards for
Yeah.
sure. Even though they're filled with errors, there's still some good times in there to
I
be
think that's
had.
part of the charm.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't know the motives of these graphic designers or the big wigs. Like, again, why does it matter that there's trees or that there's different the printing? I could see the printing thing with the orange. You're absolutely right. Depends on a lot of things there, but there's also some errors in this set. Like a gap in the black border, no gap in the black border. I don't know if
Right,
you've
right.
caught on any of that, but
Yeah, the Buddy Bell was the one with the gap that you showed.
yeah, let me see if I can find that.
Yeah.
That is a
Right near the
that's a
Schaefer sign.
gap right there. Yeah, right near the Schaefer sign. Yeah, absolutely. Which is crazy, but for a master set, I think this is pretty. 660 cards plus whatever for a master
Yeah,
set.
there's quite a bit of variations you have to
Yeah,
track down.
yeah. So I would not recommend it for anybody unless if that's all they wanted to do was 73s because it can be brutal. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
I'm happy with a base set.
Yeah, exactly, man. If I get some, I get some. If I get
Well,
some of the other ones,
you talk about the printing quality. I think part of the factor with that too is it wasn't really important to turn out a quality product.
right?
I mean, these things were going to sell to kids 15 and under, whatever. They were going to buy them no matter what they look like.
And they were going to age out, right? The kids were going to
Yeah.
age out, and the cards weren't going to come with them.
Right. And like now, you see all the problems they're having in printing facilities now, and they're trying to get it perfect.
Yeah, they're trying to make
So,
10s, right? Yeah. Well, we didn't care because, like you said, we
no,
used to play with our
I still
cards,
don't.
right? I don't care that much either, Ed, and that's why you're here is because your opinion is one I respect and look up to. So you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. We need more Eds in the world.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If I'm selling a card, I won't sell a card that's, especially with modern. If I don't think it's going to pass
Right.
today's collector's scrutiny, I won't put it up.
I sold a 52 Ray Boone card today, but the description says corner dings and rounded and stained. And if
Well, the person
that
buying
doesn't, yeah, if that
the
doesn't
person,
scare you off, I don't care. Nothing will, you know.
no, the person buying that card is not going to care about that because
Right.
they know that's part of the gig in the vintage.
Especially at the price. I'm not selling it for
Yeah.
$50. You
And
know,
if
I'm
you're being
selling it
up
for
front,
yeah, yeah,
like me, I would buy that card because it's
yeah.
probably cheaper than something that's going to grade out a very good or better.
I got boxes of 50s and 60s cards behind me that I'm working towards completing sets that are all sorts of stuff. You know, like when the
Yeah.
kids would write what team the player was
Oh
traded
yeah.
to in the middle of the season. It's
I had
written on those cards. You know.
I had a friend of mine that pulled the Nolan Ryan rookie out of a suitcase he used to keep cards in. This was probably about 5 years ago,
Oh
and he
man.
pulled the Nolan Ryan rookie that was curled up. That was
Oh,
definitely
that's
a Pikes.
great. It's
He said, "I don't
awesome.
even remember that card, but it was in the bottom of that suitcase from
I hate
50
for
years late earlier."
yeah, I hate for people to get to a certain stage in life where suddenly their biggest regrets is how they treated their baseball cards when they were 8 years old. You know,
Uh,
it's bigger
I,
things to
I,
worry
I,
about.
I'd be a basket case if I
Yeah,
let that bother me.
for sure. Let's talk about the leaders. Some great leaders. That is obviously Carlton coming off a monster year, victory, strikeouts, all that stuff.
Oh, that 27 wins was
Yeah,
unbelievable. They only
yeah,
won 59 games.
yeah. They were a horrible team, and be careful. You get traded to a crappy team if you complain. He wanted Bob Gibson money and ended up
Yeah,
in Philly, and well, you won a couple Cy Youngs and a ring, so didn't work out too bad. And no one's over there. No one was kind of pitching in oblivion there in Anaheim.
yeah.
Poor fella, but he was racking up the Ks. Nice little three-player card with the victory leaders: Carlton from the NL and Gaylord Perry and Wilbur Wood, who could probably pitch 5 days a week back then. I would think, right?
He pitched both ends of a doubleheader on more than one occasion.
That's awesome.
Talk about saving
Uh,
the bullpen.
these kids these days, like Tug McGraw pitching 7 innings of relief, and
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
your closer, right? Yeah, the leaders would be listed on the back. Fun stuff back there. Great way to recap the previous year. Let's see what else we have here. Uh, Now, 71 obviously is known for the advent of action cards. 72 had actual in action cards, but
yeah,
73, man, there were some great action cards in that
yes,
set
yeah.
for
I
sure.
agree.
Um, and taken from all different angles, some in the dugout, some, look like they were in the upper deck. Reggie Jackson's card looks like it was taken from center field, like there was somebody out there with him. And
Yeah, it
that's a
looks. I just that facial expression. I mean, that's one of my favorite cards of all time. I mean, he's
he,
just like he's doing it.
yeah, he looks like it just looks like a bad acid trip, and it doesn't even look like Reggie. Like we can't see
His
his
face is
eyes.
contorted.
Yeah, yeah, everything's all contorted there. So fun cards. Ron Reed, who was about 6'14", falling off the mound,
Yeah.
probably at Candlestick, I would imagine.
Well,
Catcher
that's
kind
what I
of
was
peeking
just
it.
going to say because you got the chain link at Candlestick Park there.
Yeah, that's how I'll always be able to call out Candlestick, is because
Yeah,
in the
because I
'70s we remember that chain
right
link
here,
fence.
Bobby Bonds, same thing.
Let me bring that up, Ed. Hold on. Yeah, and Pops,
Chain
right?
link. Yeah, with
Yeah,
Willie Stargell.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
great, man. It's Bobby Bonds. I don't know how many different teams he's depicted on in the '70s, but
well,
we'll
he
have
made
to
the
figure
move.
that out, huh?
He traveled, that's for sure.
Yeah, he didn't like to stay one place too long.
I don't think one place liked him to stay too long either.
Let's talk about card number one, because this card
That's
or
epic.
this set that you and I talk about, we talked about before we came on. There is so much meat in this set, unlike any other '70s set, I would imagine. So imagine 1973. We're going into '73, and Willie is obviously behind Hank Aaron at this point.
Yeah, Willie
Um,
only has 6 home runs left.
Yeah, so Willie in '69 hit 13. I think in '70 he hit 28, '71, 18, and '72, 8. Meanwhile, Henry Louis Aaron, who it's his birthday today, by the way, in '69 he's hitting 44 home runs, 70, 38, 71, 47 home runs, and 72, 34. So he's not messing around. He
No,
realizes he
he
doesn't have
closed with a bang.
Yeah, yeah, and I think 47 was his career high. And imagine hitting that your career high in homers, 18th year in the league or
Yeah,
whatever. So
yeah.
yeah, they're closing in on Babe. Tops kind of doesn't really. I always say Tops is not sentimental at all. It never has been, and it's interesting how they portrayed the whole home run chase, both in '73 and '74. So I think they felt it was coming, and enough to give this its own card. Did you see this card as a kid and say, "Who is Babe Ruth and who is Willie Mays and who is Hank Aaron?" Or
Oh no, I knew who they were by
you
that
were
time.
aware, huh? Did you pull this one out of the pack, do you think?
Oh yeah, I had that card.
That's beauty, man. Yeah, what a way to start a set, right? We used to we're used to a lot of league leader cards starting the sets and all that stuff back then. But this thing, man, right out of the bat, you have three heavyweights, and instead of colorizing Babe Ruth, which I don't think they had the technology to do then they black and whited Hank Aaron and Willie Mays,
Yeah,
who's depicted. Even though he's got the NY on his hat, obviously it's a
yeah,
Mets hat, right? Because Shea Stadium's behind him.
yep.
So we'll talk about your guys here now. Let's see here. A Pudge, obviously, iconic card for everybody in Massachusetts. Pudge looks. I always thought Pudge looked like Tom Brady in that picture, where
Yeah,
Tom Brady looks
I
like
think he's
Pudge.
looking at somebody saying, "Can we get this over with?"
He was a little. He'd been around for a while at that point, right? Didn't he? When did he?
He came up in '69 for a cup of coffee, bounced around, and then '71 he got the call up, and he's stuck at that point.
And he battled it out with for the rest of the decade with Munson, right? I know that they weren't friends. I know that
It
they
was a
were.
big rivalry. They had a couple of
Yeah,
on-field spats.
yeah. I read a book. I just read a book called "The Captain and Me" by Ron Bloomberg, and
Yeah.
it wasn't. They didn't beat around the bush there. There was definitely animosity between the two, and
Oh yeah.
both professionally and personally, I think, right? So Goose is over there. We got Goose throwing in the on the sides at spring training. He is a White Sox. He's another guy that would travel around the league a bunch in the
Yeah.
'70s and then in the '80s as well. And then we have the second year card of Ron Say, and we have John Hilton and Mike Schmidt. This card, you're saying you need to attain this card, huh?
Yes.
It's probably the most valuable, consistently valuable, and iconic player card of the '70s, which is again interesting. You talk about Jim Rice, but pretty big deal this card, and I like to say that the '70s kind of bridged the gap between the inner circle Hall of Famers of the '50s and '60s, and then obviously we had a bunch of Hall of Famers in the '80s come along and earlier. But Schmidt's one of those shoulder players that played '70s and '80s and did all right. But yeah, I have the card. I'm not in love with the card. There's many other '73 tops cards that I think are much more attractive than this one, but this one kind of has the value. Huh? You going to buy this graded, raw, or whatever?
No, I'll buy that raw. There's the gentleman I get most of my vintage from is a fellow named Charlie O'Neill. He's from Rensselaer, New York.
Yep.
And he comes down. He was at the show yesterday in Cranston. And he comes to the two Shriner shows, that one in the spring and one in the fall. And I kind of, because I can trust him. He's been doing this for 50 years, and he has quality items at real good prices. Mark buys a lot from him also.
Yeah, Mark's trying to shame me to come up there for the Shriner show.
Yeah, yeah.
It
I
might
told
just work.
Ryan, this would be a good one for you. That'd be worth it.
You talk about rookies. We showed Buddy Bell earlier. A lot of other '70s names like Steve Yeager, Dave Goltz, obviously Gossage. Let's
Bob
see
Boone.
here. Billy North was one of those guys. Who was there.
Oh,
Gary Maddox had a solo card. You said Booney, right?
yeah,
Bob Boone.
Boone, Rick Russell.
Rick Russell. Yep, exactly.
Those are the ones that I take note
Let's
of.
see if I can find any more. What's funny is TCDB lists Danny Ozark's card as a rookie card.
Rookie
Which,
manager, maybe.
yeah, right. He's the only rookie manager, but that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Let me see. I guess Jack McKean's the same way. They list him that way. As far as 3-player cards, there's Ken Reitz, who was a good third baseman, I think, back in the 70s, right? Enos Cabell's in there. Gary Matthews. So you had both Garys. Doc Medich, rookie card. Davey Lopes, rookie card. Charlie Huff. That
Yep.
doesn't sound
Charlie
right.
Huff.
Boy,
Yeah.
it sounded like I thought he was pitching in the 50s. It felt like,
Reggie
right?
Fisk.
Yeah, all these guys were grouped according to position, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I think 71, we kind of deviated from that in 72 as well. But these guys, 3-player cards, all by position. What else can we talk about? The postseason cards. Again, this is
Yeah.
actually look at old Thurman. Is that Thurman in there?
No, that's
No, that's Freehan. Bill
Freehan.
Freehan, right? Yeah, that was whatchamacallit, Billy Martin's Tigers, right?
Now, interesting about these playoffs was that all three series, the 2 league championship series and the World Series, all went to Max.
Max, right? Which this is the dawn of the dynasty age, where we have 3 in a row, 72, 73, 74 by the A's.
Yep.
This is 75, 76 Reds, and then the Yankees 77, 78. And the Reds would flip that, and then I think it was 76 they would sweep everybody, I think.
Yeah, they did.
So the big red machine was hopping along. The A's, those crazy, amazing, off the wall A's were there, right? They're doing their thing. So then we have the World Series, and like you said, it's a nice little recap of the World Series, and it deserves 7. They gave 1 card per league championship series, but they gave a card per game in the World Series.
Yeah.
Tennis the Menace, what a great headline that is on that card.
He came out of nowhere in that series.
Yeah, for sure. So fun stuff, and we're going to talk a little bit about another pitcher later on, but the Game 5 card is cool because John Blue Moon Odom is about to be out at the plate by Johnny Bench, and hey, we didn't see pitchers running around much, but Blue Moon was running the field, right?
And I remember watching the game, and when he was out at the plate, he was practically begging the umpire to call him safe. He just like pleading his case. No.
Was that the last year of the DH? Or was that the
72 was the last year before the DH.
72? So the first year of the DH, but the league, I don't think they adopted it for the series yet.
No,
right?
actually, that was 72 season. They hadn't adopted.
No, they hadn't had it yet. You're right. Yep. I'm sorry. I forget how crazy that is. And moving on to Game 7, Campy starts a winning rally. I always hate when teams win championships on the road, but they did that at Riverfront, obviously. World champions there. Nice little shot of the bat boy, whoever that is, and big puffy green jacket.
That boy is probably MC Hammer.
It's MC Hammer, man. Oh, good stuff. All right, now just to prove that we weren't messing around when we said how incredible the set was, let's talk about this, right? Tops again. You'd see people pop up back in the day. I know they did some Babe Ruth stuff in 62, Babe Ruth and Gehrig and stuff like that. But they weren't sentimental too much about their history. But look at here, Tops gets freaky with obviously we saw Babe card number 1, but we get a little deeper here with hits leader. I had to put Gehrig in there because normally we don't count grand slams as too big of a stat. It's a big deal, but not enough to have a retrospective card. But we had to get Gehrig in there somewhere. Hank Aaron, total bases. Ruth, his last card probably as an RBI leader, right? Because I guess Hank wasn't too far behind at that point.
Yeah.
Cobb, was such a good hitter that not only was he the all-time hit leader for another maybe 8 or 9 years. He was also the all-time batting average leader, but he was so good they only used to have to use one picture for him, right? So same picture there for Cobb, depicting his 367 career average. Walter Johnson's in there with shutouts, 113, Cy Young, 511 wins, and Walter Johnson with a different picture is your strikeout leader. So I know we like to say never say never, but there's some stats there that don't look like they're ever going to fall, right? Cobb, 367.
Yeah. Walter Johnson,
shutouts, and then Cy Young. People they'd like to talk about unbreakable stats. There's so many of them in baseball. You can't can't put too much brain power into it because there's too many to go around.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of heavy hitters here, I don't know what happened with my graphics, but we're going to go with this. Hank Aaron, nice shot of him. He's depicted as a first baseman there
Yep.
at the vet. That's the vet behind him. I know those bleacher covers like the back of my hand and that green fence. Harmon Killebrew playing in a Cleveland Municipal Stadium with a couple hundred of his friends in the stands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was typical in the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah. And you see stuff that way back, like in the 50s and 60s, you see like we like to think that there was 40,000 people at every game. There wasn't.
Yeah, no.
Um, I'm always fascinated why, if you look at the picture of Killebrew, like further down the third base line, there's a lot of people, but closer to home plate, there's not a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like what's the harm of letting these people get
Yeah,
closer
right.
to the action?
No, you didn't pay for that seat.
Nope, stay there. Yeah, you could not cross that aisle. And then we have Willie Mays, who it's commonly referred to as his final playing days card.
Yes.
We know he would appear on a card the next season, a World Series card. This is the card. I know we're not supposed to have regrets, Ed, but this is the one I saw on top of a pile in a box that sat on my porch when we moved from Philadelphia to the suburbs, and it sat there for probably 4 or 5 months, and until one day that box was gone, and that was the card that was on top, and so I always thought it was in my mind, but my brothers confirmed that. So I wish I had that box back, which would have been my brother's cards. But Willie looks scared there, maybe scared of retirement.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting shot for sure. I assume that's spring training as well. But who knows? But anyway, these guys, like I said, these guys stretch us back to the early to mid 50s as far as baseball lineage. So there's no doubt about that. Going to talk about a fun thing I showed you before we got on the air, and it's a nice shot of Mickey Scott. And Mickey Scott is a rather ordinary left-handed pitcher for the Orioles. And one of the things I want to point out, though, the pitcher icon at the bottom right, or avatar, if it was a left-handed pitcher, they flipped that around in most cases, from what I gather. And the right-handed one would depict a right-hander, which I thought was kind of neat.
Yeah.
So I think But my research indicated to me that there's a nice Walt Disney World banner, a sign on the back of the what looks like, I guess, left field there. So nice little shout out to Mauschwitz down there.
That's probably right around the time Walt Disney World opened.
When did that open? Do we know?
It was in the early 70s.
Oh, there you go. Right? How cool is that? A little piece of Americana right there for
And
the
his
kids
name
watching.
Mickey. You can't go wrong.
Yeah. Wow, man. That's crazy that you just drew that parallel. How crazy is that? Oh my gosh. My mind's blown over here. So I'm gonna have to sweep it up after we go here. Talk about this one too, right? I know you love your boomer. Everybody up there loves their boomer, even though
the play that never was.
Yes, play that never was.
Yeah, Boomer was a great guy.
So we're looking at here. What's weird about this picture is, from what I gather, is the stands are oriented in a direction different than what is actual, first base side of a field, because everybody's looking out towards center field.
Yeah.
Who's that number 19 there? That's not Gene Tennis? That's Campy? Okay. All right, I got you. So Campy's sliding back into first. I think you see the ball over Campy's left elbow, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And a pickoff play at first base. Now, what we see here is George Scott wearing a road jersey for the Milwaukee Brewers. We see what appears to be County Stadium bleachers in the back, though. So that's one of these mysteries of, did they put the audience? Did they put the player? What do you think happened?
Yeah. I'm not sure on that one. That doesn't make any sense, but
it's weird cut and paste, right?
A lot of stuff doesn't make sense in this set.
The only thing that does make sense, which I love, is the pennant in the background over, I think, George Scott's head. I think that's a pennant, but that's pretty fun. Just that is something that wasn't sold and traded like it is now. These were actually taken to games and waved in the
Yeah,
air,
a
which
lot of
was
them just
fun.
left behind at the end of the game.
Yeah, they made out of felt, for crying out loud. Now this next card is one I've gotten wrong many times. Well, I got it wrong once, but I thought it was the Mets Cleon Jones sliding into home plate. See Pat Corrales in agony.
Yeah.
It is Fergie Jenkins, and that was proven several times over by people. What I found recently, which I think is pretty cool, is this picture right here of the other angle
Yes.
before it
Right.
all goes wrong, right? So
That's great.
that would have been just as good a card, but maybe it just didn't highlight Pat Corrales enough. But and I don't know who's in the I don't know who the third base coach was, but he's pretty far down the line too, kind of
Yeah.
blocked by Corrales. I don't know whether it's DeRocher. I don't think he would have been on third base, but everything's in there. We got a bat, we got a flying pitcher, we got the mustard yellow uniforms.
Yeah. That is a great picture.
Wrigley Field, right? I see some bats there. The bat rack is right at the front of the dugout. So
Yep.
yeah, it's a little fun little piece of history there for baseball. Let me see what else I could find. We'll go to this guy, which is probably the most iconic card of the set, right? Clemente's last card, number 50. And remember, I said that Topps was not very sentimental, so we wouldn't see any kind of tribute to him the following year, just like we didn't see for Thurman Munson a couple years later. But
Right.
very rarely do players have their career stats on the back of cards. Very rarely does a player get exactly 3,000 hits in the major leagues. And I've wondered and asked questions to Clemente fans as whether they thought Clemente would have kept going. I guess he would have been 39 the next year or midway through the next year. So who knows if he would have come back. Do you have any recollection of his passing, or were you too young for that?
No, I remember that. It was all over the news.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, it seems like baseball players would go away at the end of the year and you never hear from them until opening day again. But this
Yeah,
was,
and the thing was, it wasn't that long after Jackie Robinson passed away.
yeah, true. Yeah, didn't he give a in the 72 World Series or was
Yeah,
it
it was maybe a week.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
a week after the 72 World Series. It was,
yeah.
and
Crazy. But Clemente, obviously a hobby darling, and rightfully so. And it's an interesting card because he had some great cards, that's for sure. But it's a interesting card and kind of a reflective card too. Kind of a silhouetted thing of him. So
yeah,
you have this one, Ed.
I do.
Okay, it's a pretty important card right here.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's probably the most iconic card of the set.
yeah, for
Not
sure.
valuable, but
Yeah.
for the situation as it was, and him being his last card after he already passed away.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, we know back then that once they printed these things off, it felt like in August the year before. But
Yeah.
I know I'm exaggerating, but this thing was already to print and packaged before he passed away.
Mhm.
Interestingly, obviously, we saw Gil Hodges die. I think at 72 was it in
Spring
spring
training.
training, and
Yeah.
Topps wasn't able to recognize that, but I think the OPG version had that in there, had his passing printed on the card. So cool stuff. Now here's another thing here for you. This is home cooked for you. I don't know anything about it, but we have this guy who we both adore, and obviously it's like, hey, Yaz, can I get your picture? And that's about all you got from Yaz.
Looks like he has Reggie Smith's bat.
I was just going to say, is that a 7 I see on the back of there or on the
That
bottom of that?
is, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Huh?
Reggie must have been in the cage. Hey, give me that.
Give me that bat. Yeah. And what's interesting, we got a catcher in that cage too. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if any catchers want to
The
get in there and
funny thing
practice.
is, there was a lot of stories that Yaz and Reggie didn't get along, and that
Really?
they shipped Reggie out to St. Louis because Yorkie decided he didn't want him around anymore. Never really had anybody come out and say it was a fact, and players have never spoke towards it, as far as I know. But that was always a rumor back in the day, especially around the time Reggie got traded.
Interesting. To the
Mississippi
Cardinals, right? Didn't he go to the
Yeah,
Cardinals?
yeah, he
And
was
who'd
in
they
that.
get for him? Carbo
They got Carbo, Rick Wise,
and Rick
or Reggie
Wise.
Cleveland. I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay.
2 of those 3 came back in that Reggie swap.
Yeah. See, I didn't know that. I thought, Reggie I liked Reggie Smith. I thought Reggie Smith was one of
I
the
think he's a
best
great
players of
player.
the '70s. So imagine that team if Reggie Smith had stayed, but
Well, I
they
always
didn't
said they
lose
had
much.
Dewey coming up anyway,
I was
so
going to
that
say, yeah. They didn't lose much by Reggie going away. Obviously, Dewey
no,
was just as good, if not a better player all around as well. So, yeah, Reggie would get a ring eventually. I think at 81, but yeah,
yeah. No, Reggie was a great player, especially when he went to the Dodgers. It's kind of like his career took off again.
yeah, for sure. So there's this, and apparently Yaz was in a Simpsons episode,
Yeah.
and which is kind of cool, right? For a guy that certainly didn't seek out the spotlight.
No, not at all.
He became kind of the baseball representative to the Simpsons. Maybe it was the same for me. Like they found the name hilarious,
Yeah.
and that's why they went for it. But
Well, the writers probably wanted to prove they could spell it.
yeah, well, that's again, I say all the time, I have no idea how why I chose the most difficult name in baseball history as my favorite player, but glad I did, man. It's
Yeah.
fun having his cards. I'm at about maybe 200, a little bit more than 200 of his cards, and I know there's thousands, right? We're again, we'd be screwed if we tried to track them all down, but
Yeah. And the thing is, if you buy the last one, what else is there?
there's another one coming out too, I'm
No,
sure, right? Yeah.
I love the chase.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, it's good times. That's what this whole thing is about, and I like to preach that you do it the right way because I like to say it's an opportunity. You say you're a bit scatterbrained sometimes, but you got to zag when everybody else is
Yeah.
zigging, or
I
you got
go
to go
where
with the
my
flow.
attention goes, I
Yeah,
follow.
yeah,
Too
for
much
sure.
out there to be very narrow. I mean, I like to be narrow in my pursuits at that moment,
Right,
but something else may catch my attention tomorrow, and I'm like, that's nice. Especially when I look at other people's collections, I see things I
right.
didn't know existed. I'm like, I want that.
Yeah, you like I've said, you go to a show with something on your mind, or even 5 cards on your mind, and what happens if you go 0 for 5? It's and that's all you spent your time. I like to
Yeah,
we do have, we're kind of like goldfish, where we're pretty surprised when we swim to the other side of the tank and there's a castle there, and the castle's been there the whole time. But it's fun getting distracted and picking up stuff, and get more knowledge that way too, right?
yeah,
You learn about things and players, and
absolutely.
I didn't expect that I'd have a box full of non-sports cards from the '50s and the early '60s, but I love that stuff. It's great. So, what about you? Do you have any non-sports stuff, Ed? Or are you strictly baseball? We didn't talk about any of the
Yeah,
other sports.
yeah. I'm 95% baseball. Anything I have for the other sports would be around the local team: Celtics, Bruins, Red Sox.
Rank those 4
Um,
teams in your heart,
in
please.
my heart, I would have to say the Celtics would be number two.
Okay.
Even though they haven't, the Patriots have had the success, but I loved basketball as a kid.
Okay.
And kind of the way the NBA's evolved over the last 20 or so years after Bird and Magic,
Hmm.
it's changed, and I'm not so attracted to it anymore. But all time, I mean, those Celtics teams of the 60s that I only read about, but then they continued into the 70s, then the Bird years,
Right.
they were they were great.
So I've talked to Mark about Bird. There's nothing that guy couldn't do. Like if you wanted him to be your point guard, he probably would have been the best point guard in the league,
If you
right?
wanted to lead the lead in scoring, he could have done that too.
Yeah, exactly. He's somebody that every kid should have to watch if you're going to be a basketball fan,
Yeah.
because what he would do out there was amazing. Who's the greatest basketball player of all time in your mind?
All time's got to be Bill Russell.
Okay, you're a homer. I get it.
But it's a team game. He has the rings.
Yeah. Pretty
That's
sure Will Chamberlain may have gotten 50 rebounds on him one night, but whatever.
yeah. No, and he probably did more than once. But more than likely, the Celtics won the game,
Yeah.
and that's how Bill Russell
Yeah.
looked at it.
Yeah. It's a
He
team
just
guy.
played to win,
Yeah.
and I guess I should have qualified that as far as player, because to me, he's the greatest winner.
Right.
There were probably a lot of other guys, which there were a lot of the guys who are probably more talented.
Mm-hmm.
But the greatest winner, the greatest team player to me in any sport is him. I mean, he won the championship 11 out of 13 years.
Right.
2 of those years he was the player coach.
Right.
He won 2 NCAA titles and a gold medal. The guy never lost.
San Francisco State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was never a Harlem Globetrotter like Wilt was.
No.
And they won every game, Ed. Okay,
Yes.
Globetrotters won every game.
Yeah. And I don't disparage Will in any way. But like
Yeah,
when it comes to team players, you just can't argue with the record.
yeah, for sure, man. You're right. Greatest baseball player of all time? Not favorite, but who do you think the greatest baseball player of
Greatest
all time?
baseball player of all time, I have to say Willie Mays.
Okay, interesting.
He did it
Now,
on both ends, center
do you?
field and hitting. I mean,
Yeah, but man,
it's
I can't help to think if Ted hadn't been on vacation for 4.5 years, their numbers would have been the same, or Ted would have had better numbers.
yep.
You know?
And Ted's definitely there in the top five.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
I just think it's Willie's ability on the defensive end.
yeah. And
Separate.
there was nothing like him. That he was the first of his kind, which is, and he still stood the test of time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was nobody like him uh, when he came around.
No.
Nobody. And
Oh, he revolutionized it.
yeah, and now you're looking at your guys like Griffey and all those guys that came around later. I don't know how many more there are like Griffey, but like those are direct the mold of Willie Mays for sure. So
Yeah.
I never got behind Willie too much because I never liked any of his cards for whatever reasons. I like to talk about photogenic players like Billy Williams or Clemente, but for some reason Mays's cards were never attractive to me. But man, a heck of a ball player, huh?
Yeah.
And we keep learning. Like I get in a little spats with people sometimes. Somebody on Twitter had their Mount Rushmore for the Yankees, and it was Ruth Gehrig, Mantle, and Berra. And I'm like, how can you leave Joe DiMaggio out of that? And
That's a tough one.
and he said, somebody said, like, well, the guy said, shot back, well, Berra had 10 rings. I said, well, if you're going right rings, DiMaggio had 9. So then you got to get rid of Ruth and Gehrig, who didn't
Yeah.
have 9 rings. It's
But it took DiMaggio 3 votes to get into the Hall of Fame. So
crazy, man. This guy.
that is
Another thing I tell people about that is like I hate that we're talking about the Yankees, but he essentially did it himself, right? I mean, he had Gehrig around for a few years in the beginning and Berra around for a few years at the end, but
yeah.
he was like, oh, there was nobody to protect him in that lineup for
Yeah,
much of
no,
the 40s.
his early years in the 30s was, I mean, that's when Gehrig transitioned out. Ruth was
Yeah.
already gone.
Yeah.
They had good teams, but they didn't have the star power.
And they won
in the 50s.
Yeah, for sure, man. Crazy. All right, that's enough Yankees talk.
I agree. Although Lou Gehrig is one of my favorite non-Red Sox players.
Okay. Well, that's what's great about the history of the sport. Ty Cobb has grown on me, even though he spent a brief time with the Philadelphia A's. It didn't impact his career that much, but like he's grown on me the more I find out about him. He's in the mold of guys like Lefty Grove and then Williams and then Yastrzemski, where they didn't care about talking about it. They just wanted to do it. They didn't want to talk to reporters. They didn't care who they offended. They were just competitors. And
Yes.
I love that stuff and all that stuff. So, well, Ed, thank you. 73 was a great year.
It absolutely was.
For sure. I appreciate it. Man, underrated set.
Yes.
I think what you and I are seeing in our later years of collecting is more of an appreciation for it, though, which is great because I think
there was one more I wanted to mention.
Let me have it.
The card where the guy's name on the card is not there.
Joe Rudy. That's Gene Tennis, isn't it?
Gene Tennis, and I forget the other 2 players.
It might be a Bill North, but yeah, there's some of that going on for sure. And I would be if I didn't mention again that this is one of those sets got a lot of airbrushing and stuff like that. It's still look at that. Isn't that amazing?
Really not, they didn't even take the Chicago off the jersey.
Give me the green pen. All right. Yeah, they didn't even take the Chicago off. Isn't that awesome?
They're like, we've done enough airbrushing. We're running out.
And you know what? I look at that card and I like, oh, Billy North played for the Cubs, or whatever, you didn't think that, right? But it's sometimes they point out there's one in 74 where they just didn't care. It was like they just didn't care. They kept the player in his uniform and put a different team name on the card. So well, thanks, man. I appreciate the time.
No
I
problem.
appreciate
Thank you for having me on.
I appreciate the way you collect and the way you go about it and all that stuff. And I have to get up there to see you and Mark in action.
Yeah, it'd
And
be a great time.
yeah, what do you got? You got a Gator jersey there next to your couch? What's going on your
What's that?
left?
To that side?
Greenwell. Yeah.
Oh no, that's one of my jerseys. That comes
Oh, that's green. All right, that's an Ed Green original. What number are you, Ed?
14.
14. There you go. Yeah, I thought it was a Greenwell
Yeah,
just sitting there in the
that was
corner.
my last season of playing baseball, which was 7 years ago. I played till I was 50.
Real baseball, not
Yes,
softball.
no
Hardball, huh? That's
baseball,
crazy, man. Good
and
for you.
that's the lasting remembrance of that final season.
What position were you playing?
But that's well, when I was young, growing up, I was pitcher and shortstop. But
Okay.
by the time later in life, I just played wherever they needed me. I showed up with an infield glove, an outfield glove, and a first base glove. The only thing I wasn't going to do was catch.
Good stuff, man. What's on the other side there? You have a picture. Is it Yaz with the red hat on?
That's Yaz and Pudge.
But just to the left of that picture, or
That's Denny Doyle.
Denny Doyle. And where is that? Is that mountains? Is that at spring training? It can't be.
No,
At
that's
spring
at
training.
Fenway. That's the
Oh,
green
that's
wall
a Fenway.
behind them.
Okay.
Now the thing with that wall is I call that the red cap era wall because that's
Yeah.
75
stuff,
to
man.
78 when they wore the red caps.
Yep. Yep.
And
And the
the
pullover polyesters. Yeah.
last game they ever wore those uniforms and those caps was the Bucky Dent game.
Was it really?
So that era did not end on a solid note. Yeah,
Wow.
because 79 they went back to the old uniforms in 79.
I got you. Yeah. Denny
But that
Doyle, huh?
whole wall, like the jersey you can see to the left of Denny
Yep.
Doyle is Fred Lynn. And then to the left of him down further is Jim Rice.
Okay. I got you.
And I have a picture of those three way down the other end. And I got it signed at Shriners a couple years ago. And I got a picture with all three of them. I get to spend about 5 minutes talking to them
Oh, good.
as a fanboy. You know?
Right.
And I showed them all that wall, and they were just blown away by it.
Brings back memories for them too,
Pretty cool.
It's cool seeing some of these guys on Twitter.
Yeah.
I know Fred Lynn's very active. I think he just had his knee done or knees done.
That was
right?
he showed the picture of his two knees.
Yeah. But he's pretty active on there. And Fergie, there's a lot of old Sox out there. Fergie's out there and yeah, it's fun to see these guys. I think I'm always amazed at Wade Boggs, who I don't consider very likable when he played, and I don't say I disliked him, but he wasn't, you didn't gravitate towards him. He was a great hitter.
No, you didn't get the warm and fuzzies over Wade Boggs, but he was a great player. And now you see him at shows.
He's amazing.
Very engaging.
Yeah, the way he treats his fans is absolutely amazing. And he's always, I see videos of him signing, smiling, and I think that that's awesome. Because
I just think when he played, he was so ultra focused.
Exactly. Yeah, he was intense, right?
Really, and hey, it is what it is to be a great hitter like that.
Yeah, you got to dial in. Right?
Works.
He's at the office, right? He needs to focus. So, well, that's good. I'm glad we got to talk about some of that stuff because that's what it's all about. We're all fanboys, and it's fun to. It's fun to just talk about that. That's what we would do if there weren't any cameras or microphones around anyway. So
that's right.
Stick around. You can watch me. You can physically watch me bobble my lines here as I jump us out of the show.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining me and Ed, or Ed and I, this week.
Thank you for having me, John. I appreciate it.
Right on, man. We went back in time. And if you have a comment or suggestion, or you want Ed to pitch at your next baseball game, reach out to me at ThatSeventiesCardShow at gmail.com, 70s Card on Twitter, ThatSeventiesCardShow on YouTube. Music on the podcast is by Mango Safari. Ed, thanks again. I urge you to enjoy collecting and, more importantly, enjoy your collection and recording. Here we go.